Hello there, people of the internet. Welcome back to another segment of Ways to Improve America. From an immigrant perspective, I am your host, Peggy Kabugwe, and on today's segment, we will be talking about everybody's favorite discussion, sex, or otherwise known as sex work, or otherwise known as the secret DVD stash that you can find in Dad's personal closet. Anyways, sex work is best known in the most simplistic way as an exchange of sexual services for money. And as a surprise to most Germans and most of Europe and somehow Nevada? Yes, you heard me right, Nevada. No, it is not legal in all countries. How is Nevada the only state in the United States to legalize sex work, you ask? I myself don't even know. To everyone's surprise, sex, the most natural urge other than eating and drinking and probably using the bathroom, has been limited and can be seen as a crime if you use it to secure a living wage, since I'm sure that your minimum wage laws in your state are definitely giving you that dream lifestyle. Okay, people, let's get serious with the criminalization of sex work. Many sex workers around the world have been denied basic human rights such as health service access, sometimes they're detained improperly, and some have even been reported being evicted from their homes. So for many sex workers around the world who live in countries that have yet to decriminalize sex work, they often have to worry about more than just finding clients. They have to find ways to stay alive and to stay away from law enforcement. And most sex workers have reported being raped, violated, harassed, or even discriminated against.
The thing is, when you're a trans woman of color, what happens is that, particularly when you're doing sex work, a lot of the men don't respect you. They don't really think of you as a human being. They don't, you're just like an object to them. Even less so than like a cisgender woman. Oftentimes, they're not afraid to hurt you. And additionally, because you're a sex worker, they feel like, well, she can't even report this to the police. Right. So.
Okay, so what does the decriminalization of sex work actually mean? It does not mean the removal of laws that criminalize exploitation, human trafficking, or violence against sex workers. These laws must remain and can and should be strengthened. It does mean the removal of laws and policies criminalizing or penalizing sex work. This includes laws and regulations related to selling and buying or organizing sex work, such as solicitation, rent promises, brothel keepings, and living off the proceeds of prostitution. And of course, we use the term sex work only for consensual exchanges between adults. Now, let's head back to talking about Nevada. Nevada, which seems to be America's most liberated and progressive state, has taken the steps, and surprisingly, everybody didn't quit their jobs and become a sex worker, as people argue. Nevada is the only state in the United States to legalize sex work and has a number of open brothels throughout the state.
When you legalize something, who do you take out of the business? You take the underage girls out, because every girl here has to go down and get a business license, be fingerprinted, photographed. They run the federal check on them.
The decriminalization of sex work comes with many questions, many people wondering how this affects all participants of the sex industry, including pimps. Now, if you don't know what a pimp is a man who controls prostitution and arranges clients for them, taking part of their earning in return, of course. In a way, if you think about it, the United States government cordially acts like a pimp to the American people. But that's a whole other discussion for another day. Protection laws created should be focused on tackling acts of exploitation, abuse, and trafficking in sex work. With the negative stigma surrounding sex work, many question whether the decriminalization of sex work will lead to increased human trafficking. I believe that this is the same simple-minded thinking that believes that legalizing marijuana would lead to increase in drug trafficking and drug addiction, which has not been proven. Yes, some people do just want to go home and smoke a joint and watch a couple of funny cat videos on YouTube and just fall asleep. Now, let's be very clear here, people. Decriminalizing sex work would not mean removing criminal penalties from trafficking. States must have their laws in place which criminalize trafficking and use them effectively to protect victims and bring traffickers to justice.
Concerned like we are about people ending up in the sex industry who never wanted to be there, about the crime and violence and exploitation that can and does occur, you'd work with us towards prevention.
And to all the Susans out there, no, there is no reliable factual piece of evidence that suggests decriminalizing sex work would encourage human trafficking, because of course you're always so worried about the children and the humans being trafficked rather than where your husband is spending his Friday and Saturday nights when he says he's over at Brad's house. But criminalization of sex work can hinder the fight against trafficking. For example, victims may be reluctant to come forward and if they fear the police would take action against them for selling sex. Where sex work is criminalized, sex workers are also excluded from workplace protections, which could increase oversight and help identify and prevent trafficking. Several anti-trafficking organizations, including Freedom Network USA, the Global Alliance Against Trafficking in Women, and La Strada International, believe that decriminalizing sex work would have a positive role to play in the fight against trafficking. Okay, that was not necessary. Claimed to be first man in case instinct.